Hi guys, welcome to the episode of GEEKAMANIA. We're your hosts, that's James.
That's Mark.
And today we're talking about the state of pro wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And to begin with, we're going to be looking at the WWE.
Yeah, because the WWE is the be-all end-all of professional wrestling in the year 2013. I think anybody that laces up a pair of boots, and I think that anybody that has that dream wants to head to WWE now, because it's where I think if you're going to be a professional wrestler, obviously, I think if I wanted to be a professional wrestler, I'd love to be, but I don't have the ability to be one.
If you're going to be one as well.
If you're going to be one, I think that's where you need to. I think if you can get signed with a WWE, I think you can say I've made it, even if it's a developmental contract. I think even with any walk of life, I think once you get to a place, you can say it depends what level you are, because there's always going to be people that want to go to Japan and say I've been to Japan and I've made it, or even someone that just wants to step into a wrestling ring. They can say I made it. But I think to be a full-time as your career, going to WWE is the big time.
Yeah, as WWE become, like nowadays, it's become such a brand that people just go to arenas just to see WWE, not to see a particular wrestler. Like you have fans of Cena, Punk and Daniel Bryan, but a lot of people I notice nowadays will just go to an event because it's WWE. Like for example, I wouldn't care if it ended up being Pinky and Perky wrestling each other at WrestleMania. I would still go to WrestleMania because it is WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Basically just shows how big of a brand WWE are. Just with their name on it, people will see something.
And that's it exactly, man. That is it perfectly. The WWE is now a machine. And every wrestler, everyone from the Undertakers to the Triple H's, even though they own the thing, you can take any. No one in WWE is indispensable now. This isn't the 80s era anymore, where there's not. Yeah, WWE has changed. I say the 80s era where it was Hulk Hogan, but I don't think the WWE needs a draw anymore. That top star. They don't. Of course, they need stars, but they don't have that one person where people fucking see. Like obviously in the 80s, you had Hogan, and then around him you had strong people like Savage,
Roddy
Piper's, the Paul Randolphs, the Ultimate Warriors. That cast of characters, but you had that one main guy. And the same with the Attitude Era, because that's when the WWE's business fell, when it was like the Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart's, and you had the new generation. And then you went, Stone Cold blew up, then The Rock come in, and The Taker, and obviously you had Undertaker, but he was like probably the biggest during the Attitude Era. And you had Triple H. That's when everything was evolving, the Attitude Era. I think that's when it changed. Professional wrestling changed actually from people having draws that made the company, and when people would see the superstars, or see the wrestlers actually, sorry, there's a bit of WWE brainwashing.
Yeah.
But they come to see the wrestlers, and that's what drew the fans, where they become brand names. And that's what happened in the Monday Night Wars. The actual names become, it was WWF and it was WCW. And that's what people would say, either WCW or WWF. It was the name. And that's how general life is changing now, where people are attracted to brand names.
Yeah, of course.
And they're attracted to a logo. And yeah, like you say, you could replace a John Cena with a Randy Orton. If someone disappeared, it wouldn't heavily affect the ratings. It doesn't matter.
No, not that much it used to be.
You could probably, you probably could, but you probably wouldn't get as many viewers, but you could fill the whole of Monday Night Raw with the cast of NXT, and the people would still watch because it's still WWE Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, like when people see the WW logo for WWE, they know what it is. They know it. Like for example, same with the Nike logo. People see the Nike logo, they know it's just the tip. They know it's a Nike logo. Yeah. It's just how synonymous WWE's become that. It's become this global phenomenon that everyone knows, basically.
And in the era of 2013, where kayfabe doesn't exist anymore, and I'd say where it used to be that, I'd say 20%, say 10, 15 years ago, where 20% of your fan base were smarting up, or smarts before the internet becoming, but everyone was a bit more smart. Most wrestling fans now are savvied up. Back 20 years ago, in the 80s, you wouldn't have got programs like Tough Enough, or even Total Divas. I mean, Total Divas, you watch that. I mean, even though I feel dirty, sorry, I have watched every episode of Total Divas.
I've watched every single episode.
Yeah, you can watch that, but it gives away so much behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't have got to see that. Professional wrestling was what it was, and
also as well, with the invention of the internet, it's changed so much about wrestling that so many people know about the backstage stuff, and also it's just a different times. Like
there's so much.
It's with the whole reality TV becoming big in the 2000s with Big Brother, that sort of thing.
You said it perfectly. Reality. Wrestling is more reality based now. I think angles, since when you had the invention of like Big Brother and reality TV shows, and that's what sort of become the norm for where it was more. People want more reality based things.
Yeah.
And they want reality based. So That's why things seem more real. But it's that. But then reality TV has become such a thing now where that it's not reality, it's scripted reality, which is kind of hard to understand. But that's what it is. And wrestling has followed that forefront. Like where you watched TNA a couple of years ago, a lot of their behind the scenes skits were the same as something like Out of the Hills or Jersey Shore, something like that, where it was like...
Yeah, it felt quite natural. It felt quite, you know, you felt like you were there with them, kind of.
Yeah,
thing.
but it's still scripted, and that's what that's what reality TV is based on, and that's how the WWE feels. I mean, obviously, you've got some wrestlers bring like that old school mentality to the new school with like reality, like someone like CM Punk is perfect.
Yeah.
I think Punk is the perfect example of what you have now in professional wrestling.
Yeah, completely.
With reality based, he's believable, but when you watch Punk, you can still, and as wrestling
and he still
fans,
has that old school mentality towards him. He knows, he has in-ring psychology, like we were talking about it earlier, that one of the things that we find missing in wrestling is in-ring psychology. You don't have that.
They can tell that story in the ring.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can, when you watch Punk, you're sitting there watching wrestling, you can think, oh my God, you can, as a fan, we know that what wrestling is, and that it's basically soap opera. It's a soap opera,
men in tights.
a soap opera. So I get the words out. Men in tights fighting each other. That's what it is. It's all scripted acting. But these guys, before anybody starts slandering us, we know it's athleticism, and we appreciate it for what professional wrestling is.
Yeah, and we know it's fake, and we know it's predetermined.
Yeah, you want to say fake, predetermined, whatever. Professional wrestling is what professional wrestling is.
Yeah, and it's like one of those people that say, but wrestling stuff like this, like so are movies and so other stuff, and how would you picture going in a ring and slamming your back?
And for any of you smart marks, you smarks, if we say all these guys are marks, look, I've been into a professional wrestling ring. I went to Sittingbourne, went to England. I took a body slam in an old, broken down British wrestling ring, and that hurt. So you imagine doing that all the time.
I used to wrestle all the time when I was a kid with my brother and stuff, and I've been given a power drill which had one of my eardrums burst, so I know what it's like to be given a move.
Anyway, let's get back on the subject anyway. Yeah. Sorry, we're going back into things. Anyway.
No, it's commentary because it's all about pro wrestling.
Shut up, man! Listen, back to camera.
Yes.
So we was talking about reality-based wrestling, and that's what it is. Punk, as fans, we can suspend our disbelief, and that's why we're professional wrestling fans, because we like to be into wrestling. We want to be able to think. Perfect example, Monday Night Raw. When we were watching Raw, this Monday just gone, and when Punk hurt his knee, I was like, for 1 minute there, I was like, has Punk actually hurt himself? I thought he'd actually hurt himself live on Raw, and I thought Punk's done himself in. But Punk's that good, it's all part of the... It's all part of the, part of the act, it's part of the show. And you think, that's incredible. Yeah. That is amazing. And remember, what was it? Pay-per-view when it was the Dolph Ziggler ADR match.
Oh, Payback.
Payback. I thought that Dolph Ziggler, and this is me, probably the most jaded wrestling fan you can meet in your life.
And we all thought, most of us thought that Ziggler was hurt just because how good a seller he is.
So much as I don't like ADR and his character, and in ring I think he's too stiff sometimes, but with the aggression that ADR brought to that match and the way Dolph sold, and I don't think there's anyone better at selling at the moment than Dolph Ziggler. Yeah. Maybe Seth Rollins, but Seth Rollins oversells. But Dolph is the most believable. I thought that Dolph was actually legitimately hurt. I can't say my words today. Was really, really hurt. And I was saying to you, Dolph's hurt, man. Dolph's hurt. You know, I was doing all that. But again, on the end,
it shows how good, with people that do know how the in-ring psychology, just how good they are to make people believe. Like the Undertaker CM Punk match, even though I knew Taker wasn't going to lose, you actually thought one moment Taker was going to lose.
Yep.
When he got hit with the urn and Punk did the whole pin pose, I was like, oh my God, he's going to win. I was like,
but I say we're halfway through the year now to WWE. Let's keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Like I say, it's kind of all up in the air. There's a lot of angles happening. Well, there's two main angles: the corporation storyline and the CM Punk Heyman storyline. Let's see what happens. Obviously, we've got Lesnar to come back still.
And as James said, Heyman's a fantastic guy. A promo man.
What did we say about him earlier? You said this era's Bobby Heenan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible. I mean, he's Paul Heyman again. It's the old school meeting the new school. But Paul Heyman is probably the most creative mind in wrestling. It's a shame that he doesn't have that creative control in WWE. I mean, there was an episode of Raw, and if the statements were true, it was the best Raw this year. I can't remember the angles that all happened, but remember we was raving about that episode of Raw, where apparently Vince took the script for Raw, threw out a window, took Heyman and Dutch Mantel and said, look guys, help me write a Raw. And it was probably the best Raw of this year. I remember bringing up Dan.
Which Raw was it then? Do you remember?
It was, I can't remember, the main event was something... I forgot, it was that good. But it was incredible Raw. I just remember seeing that Raw. I was like, this Raw was incredible, brilliant. But obviously, we're looking, it's a very strange time for WWE at the moment. For me, anyway, watching the Fed, because we've got no John Cena. And for as much as we hate, boo, cheer, what we talk about Cena, I think we are not missing Cena, but things are different at the moment. It seems that we're...
And it kind of seems like without Cena, they're able to push other stars. Like, look at Daniel Bryan. Would he have been the guy to fight against the corporation if Cena was around?
Yeah, but I mean, we don't know. I know we're all sort of sitting at the moment and grinding our gears about Daniel Bryan not having the belt, but I think there's a lot more to come. I think obviously with the possible returns of Cena, with the possible return of Sheamus. I mean, I would like. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Cena. I'd like to see a Cena heel turn. We've been screaming for that for a long time.
Probably never happen.
Yeah, I mean this is probably only the second most important heel turn since Hogan back in WCW, and we saw what happened when Hogan turned heel.
Yeah, that helped. Yeah, really. But the thing is, though, do you reckon WWE would risk losing one thing, the Make-A-Wish Foundation things, and also the money they would potentially lose?
Yeah, but they've got heels doing Make-A-Wish stuff. I mean, they've got all kinds. But if you push Daniel Bryan hard enough, he can in my face. I think they might push Sheamus to be a heel. I'd like to see Sheamus a heel. I mean, he's so boring as a face. He's just an Irish John Cena, but bad. As bad as John Cena is, at least Cena's got some bits, and we've talked about Cena's matches and put Cena in the right match with the right worker like Daniel Bryan. Like we was talking about I was talking about my top 3 Cena matches earlier, which is my favourite is obviously probably the two was Punk and JBL against the Great American Bash. I think it's 2006, 2005, but that match was the Texas Bull match where they just singed covered in blood. So you've got the gimmick they can work around. And the second match was from SummerSlam just gone, and the third match was Punk Cena.
Which one? Money in the Bank?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, incredible, really good matches. So you give Cena the right opponent so it can work. So it is that, and that's I think the current state of WWE. I think we're hitting that little autumn lull that comes every year in WWE where things get a bit poo from about this time. We had the big blow up with SummerSlam, and creativity goes down a little bit. And then you hit Christmas and the build up to the Royal Rumble, and bang, we're into Mania. And I think I'm going to get all kinds. I would like to see somehow Punk versus Daniel Bryan for the WWE title Mania. I think if we get that WrestleMania moment, that'd just be a whole massive.
That would be amazing. That just having that as a main event would be really good.
That'd be a lot of inspiring.
And also as well, another thing as well, if you notice the different Raws and stuff, is the crowds.
Yeah.
Like the last week of Chicago, it kind of reminded me when Punk came out. Reminded me when Hogan came out after Mania, just how you had all the crowds cheering for that sort of thing. That's so you miss sometimes. Like the crowd for me is probably maybe 50% of what makes a show good. If the crowd isn't engaged in the wrestling match, I feel like I'm not as engaged in the match as I really should be.
Yeah, you get drawn into it. I think wrestling as a whole, though, the WWE is definitely on an up, but it's a whole change in the guard in WWE at the moment. You can tell creatively, management-wise. Obviously, where Vince is now, his days are coming to an end, and Triple H and Stephanie take over the company, and that's legit. And that's how things are going to be in WWE. And obviously, Triple H is going to have a different view to how Vince is running the WWE for X amount of years, and there's definitely a change of guard. But it's like we've said before in conversations me and Mark have had, where we talk about that wrestling seems to go through this era to go big man, then to a more athletic, smaller guys, and then back to big man. We were saying about the eras from about 2000, like the Ruthless Aggression era of WWE, where it was like 2003, where they had all the old WCW stars. They brought in Nick Goldberg, they brought back Nash, they brought back all those guys.
Yeah.
But there was like they were bringing in big men from like WW that would be in WW for like maybe a year to 6 months. Green as grass still, but they've got that big steroided, pumped up look to them.
Yeah, and which is what Vince likes.
Like your John Heidenreichs, Tyson Tomko, but even Tomko's turned to a decent worker now from working in Japan bits and pieces. But your Heidenreichs, your Nathan Jones is.
Who went back to Australia
who else really sucked in that era?
Mark Jindrak?
Mark Jindrak, yeah, he was a bit poo.
Roman Reigns, did we mention him? No, not Roman Reigns. Luther Reigns?
Luther Reigns, yeah, I was thinking of the guy pushing Kurt Angle in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Them sort of wrestlers were getting brought through in those times, and that's what was coming through OVW at the time. But then you've sort of noticed a change, and this is what we said earlier, like from there was that lull when Edge come through, and Edge was the main man, and the wrestling seemed to turn back to that. And I think this is what Ring of Honor's brought, because like I say, your ECW influences WWE with the Attitude Era comes through, and I think, but even though it's different now, and the WWE has got such a big entity, it needs to stay as what it is. It needs to stay
also as well, do you think the steroid scandal did something to make it look smaller?
Yeah, again, with the wellness policies, get it. Wrestling cycle, it goes in cycles, and it's the same thing happens again, where guys can't be massive jacked up anymore. So you put more emphasis on the in-ring product.
Yeah.
And now you look at the guys that are on the roster now compared to what it was 7 years ago. Look at Kofi Kingston, look at Zack Ryder, look at Jack Swagger. You look at all these guys; they're smaller guys, but man, I think I'd rather watch even a WWE television match now is much better than what it was 7 years ago.
And also as well, though, like even though you think they're quite small compared to what the rest used to be, even though you might see them in real life, they still are huge. Like, I remember
big Jack.
I remember like coming out of WrestleMania 29. I remember Jack Swagger taking his mum on the bus at WrestleMania 29, and I saw him. And the guy is huge. Just how built and just how big they are. Like even like the Chris Sabers. I remember seeing him walk past when I went to CTNA back in 08. Just how big they are, even for the small guys, they're still quite big. It's just insane.
Yeah, because they work out, and compared to your average Joes, like they're going to be big. They are athletes. Like so, compared to what wrestling. This is another thing that's different about wrestling now. Wrestling has been for a long time. I say for the last 15 years, and I think this is something that's different as well. Like we were talking about TNA and what TNA needs to do to try and stay different. But for what the WWE has turned into again, it's because it's this whole cosmetically pleasing thing.
Yeah,
which
completely.
we've heard the Briscoe brothers talk about their promos, where everyone is a good-looking bodybuilder type person. They've got 6 packs.
Yeah.
It's only started to change now. But even then, you look at people that look different now. Because for a long time, everyone was like the client. They had like the short, spiky hair, had the great big, everyone was ripped biceps, triceps huge, great big chest, chiseled 6-pack. I mean, everyone was vascular. They all look like bodybuilders on TV. And it looked like Mr. Olympia contest on WWE Raw. And like, look at Chris Masters and how he was talking. Everyone was like saying, I'm the masterpiece. But then this is when it got a bit stupid because, if he'd come back in the 80s and hit that great big muscular steroid physique, he could have been doing the masterpiece gimmick and it would be brilliant. But you had guys that were on the segment before Chris Masters and on afterwards that had better bodies. So he just looked like a big shithead anyway.
And then you've also got as well with the whole, I say that, like look at Cassius Ohno, some guy who's fantastic in the ring, used to be considered Ring of Honor. Best body was forced to trade up in the thing because he's
getting a lot of shit. But even like you look at the guys that are different. I mean, even like you look at Punk and you look at Daniel Bryan, they're not in bad shape. They are ripped. And they look like athletes. Yeah. You have to look to be on top. You're saying Cassius Ohno not having that great ripped physique is why he's still on NXT and not on the main roster. You look at Cesaro, his old tag team partner, Kings of Wrestling.
A guy you would think would be perfect for Vince, fantastic in the ring, fantastic physique, does amazing stuff like that minute swing he did against Centeno Morella.
That move was to everyone.
And he isn't pushed that much. It's insane, and the fact he was like, for someone you would think would do that for a minute, even I would get really dizzy. He was just like, I'm fine, and it was just like,
not everyone can get pushed, but I mean, to be on WWE, you still need to have. You need to look like a goddamn athlete. You need to be in fantastic shape. But
same thing with them bringing in those NFL players and that sort of thing as well.
But a lot more people, a lot of the indie guys. Let's put it this way: what we were talking about earlier. A lot of the indie guys are getting a look in now, which is really good. They're getting signed. I mean, you look at the people that have been signed now by WWE that are in NXT. Your Sami Zayn's, who used to be El Generico, Solomon Crowe, who was Sami Callihan, Adrian Neville.
Because it's different management now. Because Triple H is there, he cares more about. I noticed more about the wrestling aspect of it. With like William Regal was showing him some matches of like people and Big Stab at a guy.
Regal, I think, has taken JR's old role. Yeah, and I think that is the best thing because William Regal, I think, is probably the guy who's got his finger on the pulse of modern day wrestling. He's a veteran, but he knows. And I'm going to take the term, but he knows what's best for business. Yes, he knows what the WWE's foundations have got to be, and it's got to be on work rate, and it has to be on fantastic workers. That's why we talk about the Prince Devitt's coming in. That's why we talk about the Carl Andersons coming in. We're talking about
the David Richards,
the Eddie Edwards, the Adam Coles, and all these people that are learning their craft. William Regal understands it. Sometimes you've got to sign the guys with a bit of name, like former wrestlers' sons, like people that are coming through. Maybe the second generation, the third, the fourth generations might make. I mean, look at Paige. Look at Paige coming through. Paige will be the best women's wrestler of all time when she gets signed. She's incredible, and she's from our Iron Shores. Incredible. So is Pac. Pac is the greatest high flyer. I mean, you can talk about the Kota Ibushis. You can talk about the Mysticos from Mexico. You can talk about
the Rey Mysterio.
The Rey Mysterio. You can talk about the Iceborne Dragons. You can talk about all the high flyers from Japan. I mean, Kota Ibushi is my favourite high flyer. But compared to Adrian Neville, and he's from freaking Newcastle, he's got liquor blooming. He can't cut a promise to save his life, but in the ring, no one better. Mm. He's the man that gravity forgot, and that is a legit shoot.
Nice.
But like we say, there's two ends of the wrestling spectrum right now. It's different. You've got the guys like the Randy Ortons, the Cody Rhodes, the Roman Reigns. Those guys that are the not OVW, but they were WWE. They're the WWE machine made.
Yes.
They've never wrestled in front of the 50 people. Like they've never done the small shows. They've not cut their teeth on the indie scene at all. Maybe they've done a few shows, but they are FCW or NXT or even IVW or Deep South Wrestling from all them times. They were all cut like that way, and they've been through the WWE system, and they've been WWE bred. Where you've got the guys like the CM Punks, the Daniel Bryans, all them guys.
The Seth Rollins, the Dean Ambroses, all those people as well.
The guys that are on the main roster now, like the Cesaros. I mean, I don't want to go into their indie names because half people won't know who they were, but like say Dean Ambrose was John Moxley, and Tyler Black was who is now Seth Rollins, and Daniel Bryan was Bryan Danielson. Punk's always been Punk. He's the only person I know that kept his name, and God bless they. I think if you tried to rename CM Punk, you would have lost see who CM Punk is.
Really?
But that is what it is, and you've got those guys that have paid their dues. They've been wrestling for 10 years plus, and they've cut their teeth from England. They've been to Japan. They've wrestled in Germany, the Mexicos. They've been everywhere. They've been to Canada. They've worked with Steelheart. They've done this. They've done that, and they've learned their craft. And you've got those guys on that other end, and you've got these guys mixing. I think SummerSlam was the perfect blend. You've got Daniel Bryan, who's probably, I want to say it, the real best in the world in the ring. I think even Punk would say Daniel Bryan's the best in the world. You ask him. There's no better worker than Daniel Bryan right now to take on the biggest OVW made like clone WWE wrestler, Vince McMahon's wet dream, John Cena, and these two have been met together, and you see what happened. And
Same thing for the Brock Lesnar Punk match. Like Brock Lesnar was some guy who, yes, he did all the amateur wrestling, the NCWA, and that sort of thing. It was fantastic.
But he was a WWE machine. He was WWE bred to CM Punk, who's like paid his dues on the indie scene. Yeah. So I think those two matches. But I just think people keep saying the buy rate for SummerSlam was so low, but it doesn't matter because wrestling is not going to be as big as it was in the Attitude Era. Wrestling will not be as big as in the 80s because wrestling has become overexposed, and you've got 12, 11 pay-per-views per year, and wrestling is what it is now, but wrestling is still big. I mean, you get millions and millions of people watching it.
Yeah, and also as well, you say about price probably quite low. A, we're in the middle of a recession, and B, the price is really expensive, and C, people can just stream it free.
Yeah,
why would people want to spend £60 watching a pay-per-view where they can just stream it online? Yeah. That's probably the reason why Mania bought so many tickets. Wasn't because Rock Cena 2, was because of the fact it's WrestleMania, and B, it was the fact that people who aren't wrestling fans would watch it because it's WrestleMania. I know people who aren't wrestling fans and watch Mania because it's WrestleMania. That's the pay-per-view they ever watch.
Definitely. Now, I think that pretty much sums it up for how the state of WWE is at the moment. It's definitely more, the storylines are still there and it's still gimmicky. I mean, you look at like, was it Los Matadores?
Yes.
You're always going to have that because it's a PG, family-oriented wrestling company. But there's...
But you still have the cool people who are reality-based, as you said, like the Punks and the Bryans who are able to...
Yeah, coming through. There's definitely... I think the WWE is definitely in a time of, in a couple of years, creativity is changing. It's changing the guard. So it's really exciting to watch where the WWE is heading to right now. I think we need to do a couple more parts of this video because it's getting quite big. So that's just the current state of how we think the WWE is at the moment. I think we're going to end it on this one, part 1. So this is the end of part 1, guys. Part 2 to come. TNA. Hope it's got out of business format in the next video. TNA, Ring of Honor, the Indies, British Wrestling, which I want to talk about a bit. And that, guys. So thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. That was GEEKAMANIA.
Yeah,
that's James.
That's Mark.
And cheers, guys. Bye.
Bye.